Tonight's story is an old one, about a little frog, a very large ox, and a lesson about being happy with who you are. Let's begin. Beside a quiet, lily-covered pond, at the edge of a wide green meadow, there lived a small frog named Pebble. Pebble was a perfectly ordinary sort of frog, smooth green skin, round golden eyes, and a happy little croak she liked to practice each evening from her favorite lily pad. She lived with her family of frogs and her many small froggy cousins, and most days were spent hopping between lily pads, catching gentle fireflies, and croaking softly together as the sun went down. One warm afternoon, something enormous wandered down to the edge of the pond to drink. It was an ox, tall and broad and heavy-footed, with great curved horns and a slow, deep breathing that seemed to shake the very grass around him. The little frogs all stopped what they were doing and stared, wide-eyed, at this enormous new visitor. "Have you ever seen anything so big?" one of Pebble's cousins whispered. "He's simply enormous," said another, hopping back a little nervously. Pebble stared too, watching the great ox drink slowly from the pond, his huge shadow stretching dark and long across the water. That evening, back on her lily pad, Pebble found she couldn't stop thinking about the ox. He was so big, so impressive, so much larger than any frog could ever hope to be. "I wonder," Pebble said thoughtfully to herself, "how big I could get if I really tried." The next morning, Pebble decided to try something. She took a great big breath and puffed herself up as large as she could, her round little body stretching and swelling. "Look," she called to her cousins. "Am I as big as the ox yet?" Her cousins looked her over, and one shook her head gently. "Not quite, Pebble. You're a bit bigger than usual, though." Pebble frowned and took an even bigger breath, puffing herself up further still, until her smooth green skin felt tight and strange. "Now?" she asked, her voice sounding a bit strained. "Still not quite," her cousin said kindly, a little worried now. "Pebble, maybe you should stop. You look rather uncomfortable." But Pebble didn't want to stop. She wanted, more than anything, to feel as large and impressive as that great ox by the water's edge. So every day that week, Pebble practiced puffing herself up bigger and bigger and bigger, huffing and straining until she was quite exhausted by evening. "Bigger tomorrow," she would mutter to herself, before falling into a tired, restless sleep, her little frog body sore from all that puffing and straining. Her cousins grew worried. "Pebble," one said gently one evening, "why does it matter so much, being as big as the ox?" "Because he's so impressive," Pebble said, a little breathless. "Everyone stops to stare at him. No one stops to stare at an ordinary little frog." One evening, after another long day of puffing and straining, Pebble hopped, tired and sore, to the edge of the pond, where the great ox happened to be resting quietly in the cool evening grass. She meant to slip past quietly, but the ox noticed her and turned his large, gentle eyes toward her. "You look worn out, little frog," the ox said, his voice slow and deep, but not unkind. Pebble sighed, a long, tired froggy sigh. "I've been trying to make myself as big as you," she admitted. "But no matter how much I puff myself up, I never get anywhere close." The ox blinked slowly and let out a low, rumbling sound that might have been a chuckle. "Little frog," he said gently, "why would you want to be as big as me?" "Because you're so impressive," Pebble said. "Everyone notices you. No one really notices a small frog." The ox was quiet for a moment, chewing thoughtfully on a mouthful of grass. "Do you know," he said slowly, "being big isn't always so wonderful as it looks from where you're sitting." Pebble tilted her head, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Well," the ox said, "I'm so heavy. I can never hop between lily pads the way you do. I'm so large, I can't fit in cozy little burrows to shelter from the rain. And honestly," he added, lowering his voice a bit, "all that stomping around gets rather tiring. I rather envy how light and quick you frogs are." Pebble blinked, quite surprised. "You envy us?" "Sometimes," the ox admitted. "You get to hop wherever you please, light as anything. I just sort of lumber along." Pebble sat with this for a long, quiet moment, her tired little body finally starting to relax, deflating gently back to her normal comfortable size. "I suppose," she said slowly, "I never thought about what it might be like to be you. I just saw how big you were, and thought that must be better than being me." "And I," the ox said gently. Have watched you frogs hopping and croaking together every evening, and thought that looked rather lovely too. Perhaps we were both so busy admiring each other, we forgot to notice what we already had. Pebble let out a long, relieved breath, and for the first time in a week, she felt entirely comfortable in her own small, ordinary froggy skin. I think, she said softly, I'd rather just be myself. A properly sized frog, who hops well, and croaks nicely, and doesn't ache from all that puffing. The ox smiled, as much as an ox can smile. I think that sounds like a very wise decision, little frog. That evening, Pebble hopped back to her lily pad, feeling lighter and easier than she had all week. Her cousins gathered around her, relieved to see her back to her normal, comfortable size. Where have you been? One asked. Learning, Pebble said, settling down with a contented little sigh, that I don't need to be anything other than exactly what I already am. From then on, Pebble stopped trying to puff herself up to impossible sizes. She simply hopped and croaked and enjoyed her evenings on the lily pad, exactly as she was. And sometimes, in the cool of the evening, she would catch sight of the great ox resting quietly by the water, and the two of them would share a small, understanding nod. Two very different creatures, each finally content in their own comfortable size. Little one, you don't need to puff yourself up to be bigger or louder or more impressive than you already are. There's nothing at all wrong with being exactly your own comfortable size. Now, close your eyes and let your whole body soften, gently, the way Pebbles did. No puffing, no straining. Just soft and easy and exactly as you are. Time to rest. I'll see you next time.